Pakistan has emerged as a key diplomatic hub by hosting high-level negotiations between the United States and Iran, drawing global attention to Islamabad. Representatives linked to Donald Trump are expected to participate, including senior political and strategic figures, signaling the seriousness of Washington's intent to re-engage with Tehran. On the Iranian side, prominent officials such as Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf and Abbas Araghchi are taking part, indicating that Iran is entering the talks with full authority and decision-making capacity. These negotiations are seen as part of broader efforts to reduce tensions in the Middle East, particularly in light of ongoing conflicts involving Israel and regional actors. Pakistani leadership, including Ishaq Dar, has welcomed the delegations and ensured extensive facilitation, including special visa arrangements and high-level security measures. This reflects Pakistan's intention to position itself as a neutral mediator capable of bringing rival sides to the table. Iranian officials have expressed cautious optimism about the talks, while also highlighting deep mistrust toward past U.S. actions. Despite these reservations, Tehran's decision to participate actively suggests a willingness to explore diplomatic solutions. At the same time, international observers view Pakistan's role as significant, as it helps create a platform where dialogue can continue amid escalating regional tensions, particularly those linked to Israel and ongoing conflicts in Lebanon and surrounding areas. Iran has made its position on the regional situation in Israel increasingly clear, emphasizing that while it does not seek war, it is fully prepared to defend its sovereignty and strategic interests. The country's leadership, particularly Ali Khamenei, has stressed that resistance remains a central pillar of Iran's foreign policy. He described the network of allied groups across the Middle East as a unified front, indicating that Iran views conflicts in places like Lebanon and Gaza as interconnected rather than isolated incidents. Iranian officials have repeatedly warned that continued aggression by Israel, especially in Lebanon, risks escalating tensions across the entire region. They argue that any meaningful ceasefire must include all active fronts and cannot selectively ignore ongoing military actions. Senior figures have also highlighted proposals aimed at reducing hostilities, placing strong emphasis on an immediate and comprehensive ceasefire as a first step toward stability. At the same time, Tehran has maintained that its approach is defensive rather than expansionist. Officials insist that Iran's support for regional allies is intended to deter further attacks and maintain a balance of power. However, they have also made it clear that if provoked, Iran and its allies will respond firmly. This dual message of restraint and readiness reflects Iran's broader strategy, avoiding full-scale war while ensuring that it is not perceived as weak. As tensions persist, Iran continues to call for diplomatic solutions but remains deeply skeptical about the intentions of its adversaries, particularly in light of ongoing military developments. The situation between Israel and Lebanon remains highly volatile, with repeated accusations that Israel has violated ceasefire understandings through continued military strikes. These operations have reportedly targeted multiple areas, causing civilian casualties and significant damage to infrastructure. Iranian officials have strongly criticized these actions, arguing that such violations undermine any ongoing diplomatic efforts and make meaningful negotiations increasingly difficult. According to Tehran, a ceasefire cannot be considered credible if military operations continue on the ground. Lebanon has borne the brunt of these escalations, with entire facing destruction and thousands of civilians displaced. Essential facilities, including roads, bridges, and public services, have also been affected, worsening the humanitarian situation. Iran has warned that ignoring these developments could lead to a broader regional crisis, as tensions are not confined to a single border but are connected to wider geopolitical dynamics. Groups such as Hezbollah have responded to Israeli actions with counterattacks, further intensifying the conflict. This cycle of action and retaliation has made it difficult to maintain any lasting calm. Iranian leadership has emphasized that the situation in Lebanon is a critical test for international efforts to enforce ceasefires and uphold agreements. Global concern continues to grow as the risk of escalation increases. Observers fear that if violations persist, the conflict could expand beyond Lebanon, drawing in more regional actors. In this context, maintaining and enforcing a genuine ceasefire has become essential, yet increasingly challenging amid ongoing hostilities. The ongoing conflict involving Israel and Lebanon has triggered widespread international concern, prompting strong reactions from governments, organizations, and the public across multiple regions. Many countries have openly criticized Israel's continued military operations, especially in light of reported ceasefire violations. These actions are increasingly being viewed as a threat to regional stability and a major obstacle to ongoing diplomatic efforts aimed at reducing tensions. Public response has also been significant, with large-scale protests taking place in major cities around the world. Demonstrators have called for an immediate halt to hostilities and urged global powers to take a more active role in enforcing peace. These protests reflect growing frustration among ordinary citizens who fear that continued violence could escalate into a broader regional war. International human rights organizations have also raised concerns about civilian casualties and damage to essential infrastructure, emphasizing the urgent need for accountability and restraint. At the diplomatic level, several world leaders have engaged in direct communication to address the crisis. Countries in Europe, the Middle East, and beyond have urged both sides to respect ceasefire agreements and return to negotiations. There is a strong emphasis on preventing further escalation, particularly given the involvement of regional actors aligned with Iran. The situation has also put pressure on global institutions like the United Nations, which has called for de-escalation and protection of civilians. Despite these efforts, the lack of enforcement mechanisms has made it difficult to ensure compliance. As tensions persist, the international community continues to push for a balanced approach that prioritizes diplomacy, stability, and the prevention of a wider conflict. Despite ongoing diplomatic efforts, the situation in the Middle East remains tense, with the risk of escalation continuing to grow. While negotiations and calls for ceasefire are underway, fighting on the ground has not fully stopped. Israel remains engaged in military operations, while resistance groups, particularly Hezbollah, continue to respond with counterattacks. This ongoing exchange has created a fragile and unpredictable environment where even a minor incident could trigger a wider conflict. Iran has warned that time is running out to control the situation, emphasizing that continued aggression could push the region toward a broader war. Iranian leadership has made it clear that while they prefer diplomatic solutions, they are prepared to support their allies if tensions escalate further. This stance reflects a delicate balance between avoiding direct confrontation and maintaining strategic influence across the region. The presence of multiple actors with competing interests has made the situation more complex. Any escalation involving Israel and Hezbollah could potentially draw in Iran more directly, as well as impact neighboring countries. This raises concerns not only about regional security but also about global stability, particularly in relation to energy routes and economic markets. International observers are increasingly worried that diplomacy may not be able to keep pace with developments on the ground. While talks continue, the lack of trust between key parties remains a major obstacle. As a result, the Middle East stands at a critical moment, where decisions made in the near term could determine whether the region moves toward de-escalation or deeper conflict.